Tywin Lannister returned home to Casterly Rock after the fifth and final Blackfyre Rebellion was won in 261 AC. He comes back from the war changed, much more stern, cold, and unforgiving. During the war, he learned just how far his house had fallen. He listens to the other houses tell of how the Lannisters can't even take care of the Westerlands, their own land, and how Aegon V had to intervene multiple times on the Lannisters' behalf. Now King Jaehaerys II, the current Targaryen king, sits the throne, and he isn't as martial as his father, the late King Aegon V. Without Aegon V, and with the inability of Lord Titos Lannister to rule correctly, the Westerlands are once again falling into misrule and chaos. Already a proud and stubborn man, the shame on House Lannister and the shame brought on by his father, Titos Lannister, chokes Tywin. Lord Titos had become the Warden of the West and Lord of Casterly Rock when his father, Gerald the Golden, died in 244 AC. Titos was Gerald's eldest living son and not meant to rule. Knowing this, Gerald the Golden tried to instruct his son as best he could before his death. Titos Lannister was 24 when his father passed. He was slow to anger, easy to forgive, and saw the good in everyone, but he was also weak-willed and incredibly indecisive. Under Titos Lannister's weak rule, House Reyne and House Tarbeck began to grow in power. The Tarbecks began to take advantage of Titos' generosity, and borrowed large amounts of gold to restore the crumbling walls of Tarbeck Hall, to the point where Tarbeck Hall became one of the most richly furnished castles in the West. People were constantly borrowing money from Titos and not returning it. They also began to openly mock Lord Titos, even to his face. But Titos would laugh right along with them, and oftentimes would be the loudest of them all. When his wife died in 255 AC, Lord Titos stopped laughing, but instead drew inward into deep depression. While he was crushed by his sorrow, bandits and outlaws began to prowl Westerland roads. Lord Titos had hated war, and when the 5th Blackfyre Rebellion, or War of the Nine Petty Kings, broke out, Titos stayed at home with his mistress, but sent his younger brother Jason Lannister with 10,000 Westermen to fight. Titos also sent his 3 eldest children to fight in the war, including Tywin and Kevin. The return of Lord Titos' boys marked the beginning of a change in the Westerlands. Despite Lord Titos' feeble protest, Tywin set out to restore his house's pride and power. Tywin's first act was to demand repayment of all loans. If they were unable to pay the gold back, they were required to send a hostage to Casterly Rock. Next, he gathered 500 knights that had fought on the Stepstones and charged his younger brother, Sir Kevan Lannister, with using them to rid the West of robber knights and outlaws. Some lords in the Westerlands approved of this new sternness from their Casterly Rock. Some gladly paid or turned over a hostage if they couldn't pay. However, there were some that refused. Most notably, Lord Reyne laughed when his maester read the command and told his vassals and friends not to pay back the Lannisters, nor to give up any hostages. Despite what Lord Reyne said, Lord Walderin Tarbeck instead rode to Casterly Rock. He was convinced he could bend the weak-willed Lord Titos to withdraw Tywin's commands. But when Lord Walderin Tarbeck reached Casterly Rock, Tywin, not Titos, was waiting for Lord Tarbeck. Tywin threw Lord Tarbeck in a dungeon and waited for the Tarbecks to pay back the loans. Instead, and unwisely, Lady Tarbeck sent out her own knight to capture 3 Lannisters. 2 of the Lannisters were from Lannisport, a distant family of the Lannisters of Casterly Rock, but the 3rd was a squire named Stamford Lannister, who was the eldest son and heir of Lord Titos' late brother, Sir Jason. Titos, being the weak-willed and cowardly person he was, demanded Lord Tarbeck be released, and Lord Titos even apologized to the Tarbecks and forgave them of all their debts. At the hostage exchange, which Tywin refused to attend, there was much toasting, kissing, and vows to be friends for eternity. But Lord Tywin was not amused, and in the last part of 261 AC, Tywin sent messages to Castamere and Tarbeck Hall, demanding the lord and lady of each house present themselves at Casterly Rock to, quote, answer for your crimes. Neither house complied, but instead rose up in a revolt. And this was exactly what Tywin wanted, a reason to call up his banners. He didn't even inform his father as he took 500 knights and 3,000 men and crossbowmen to finally deal with the Reynes and Tarbecks. Tywin attacked House Tarbeck first. before Lord Reyne-Tarbeck could alert his vassals. Despite not having his vassals to defend himself, Lord Tarbeck rode out with only his household knights. The battle was a slaughter. Tywin crushed Lord Tarbeck's army, beheaded Lord Tarbeck, his son, his nephews, cousins, daughters' husbands, and any person that displayed the House Tarbeck sigil. Tywin marched on to Tarbeck Hall, where Lady Tarbeck had closed the gates and sent a message to Castamere, asking for help from her brothers. Tywin was ready for a siege, and within a day brought down the castle's old keep, crushing Lady Tarbeck and her son when the keep collapsed. Some people say Tywin, a man who never smiled when the keep collapsed and crushed Lady Tarbeck. With the death of Lady Tarbeck, Tarbeck Hall surrendered, but Tywin wasn't done. He ordered for the castle to be burned down. For a day and a night, the castle burned until all that was left was a black shell. The Red Lions, or House Reyne, arrived to see the fire, but they had only brought with them 2,000 men. Tywin vastly outnumbered the Red Lion. Some say 3-1, others say 5-1. So despite House Reyne's surprise attack on Tywin's men, Tywin's numbers once again crushed the rebellers. Lord Reyne was forced to retreat as half his men lay dead in the field. Tywin followed Lord Reyne and 3 days later arrived at Castamere. Rich mines ran under Castamere, and it was a source of great wealth for the Reynes during the Age of Heroes. To protect their mines, they had built castle walls around the entrance of the mine and an oak and iron gate with 2 stout towers to either side. These mines went very deep, and 9/10 of the castle was actually beneath ground. To protect themselves against Tywin's attack, the Reynes retreated to these mines. Lord Reyne was feverish from an arrow that hit him in the back during his retreat, so instead he gave the charge of his people to Lord Reynard Reyne, Lord Reyne's brother. Once safe in the tunnels, Lord Reynard sent terms to Lord Tywin above, but instead of responding to Sir Reynard, Tywin ordered the mines to be sealed. Using picks and axes and torches, Tywin's men brought down tons of stone and soil, burying the great gate so no one could get in or out. But he didn't stop there. Tywin next took note of a small swift stream beside his castle. The first day he dammed the stream, and the next 2 days he diverted the stream to the nearest mine entrance. While the sealed mine didn't allow for anyone to get in or out, it did allow for the water to trickle through. More than 300 men, women, and children were in those mines. Not a single one ever came out. A few guards reported hearing screaming and shouts beneath the earth one night. But by day, there was only silence. The mines of Castamere have never been opened again, and the halls and keeps were burned down by Tywin. This event spawned the song Rains of Castamere, and the song and event both are enough to strike the fear in people's hearts. Some criticized Tywin for his cruelty, but many feared and respected him. Under Tywin's rule, House Lannister would become great and powerful again, and because of his ability to rule, fight, and win, a year later he would become the Hand of the King at age 20, the youngest hand ever, to his childhood friend when Aerys II, the Mad King, took the throne in 262 AC. Make sure you come back this Sunday when we talk about Aerys II Part 1, or next Wednesday for another random Game of Thrones video. Otherwise, make sure you like and subscribe.